Style for Life. I'm Stephanie Rumble, fashion stylist, accountability coach, and your guide to feeling good in your body and your clothes. Based in Christchurch, New Zealand, I bring over 3 decades of experience in fashion, fitness, and wellness to help you feel strong, stylish, and self-assured. Together, we'll explore the emotional, physical, and practical sides of style, because true confidence starts from within. No matter your age or size, you deserve to feel confident and show up as the best version of you. I truly believe this. This is Style for Life. Kia ora everybody, and welcome back to the podcast today. It's great to be back in the studio today and chatting to you about all things in Style for Life. I want to thank and acknowledge those of you who commented on the layering podcast from last week. It's definitely one of those things that we need to do, and I am layering today with 3 layers of clothes on. I'm heading away to Auckland for a couple of days, so it's going to be warmer up there and less need for as many layers, I'm hoping. But I have been reflecting on what to talk about today, and one of the things that has really struck me over the last probably 6 months, and actually has happened to me personally, is thinking about how we keep moving when we have injuries or illnesses or things that feel like they're going to stop us. So it's really common that for people to get sick or to get injured and think that exercise needs to stop. And so I thought it might be useful to explore this a wee bit, look at what some of the research shows us, and also talk a wee bit about exercising while you are maybe you have an injury or you have been ill and how you get back to it. Because again, I even myself, who's really into exercise, I definitely have those moments where I think, oh goodness me, is exercise going to be possible today? Is it a good idea to be exercising today? And then I do, and I feel so much better. So, and again, I'm not just going to talk about my own personal experience here, but also the experience of people I work with, people who I've worked with doing accountability coaching, and it might be around their activity, people I see in my gym classes, my friends who I run with as well. So there's a whole lot of people who I have had this experience with, and I just want to, again, share what the research shows us and what the lived experience is for me and for my community. So this might help you if you are battling pain, for example. So first of all, I think the first question to ask is it possible to keep exercising or moving when you have pain, which possibly could be related to an injury? An example is, I have a client at the moment and she has really bad hip pain, and she's had this for a while. She's waiting to see an orthopedic surgeon in New Zealand here. It takes a long time to get those appointments, and she's actually had a cortisone injection into her hips earlier in the year, and that didn't last for very long, and she's back in pain again. So, what do we do to keep her moving? It's some of the questions we talk about. And is not moving the answer when you are in a lot of pain? So it's a really tough decision. And I also want to say, before I get into this as well, that I am not a doctor, I am not a physio, I'm not a trained medical professional. So I'm just going to talk about, again, my lived experience and what I've read and researched for this podcast today. So you know that you need to seek advice from a medical professional, as well as using your own judgment in these situations. And that's what I say to all of my clients, is it's really important that they link up with an exercise professional or a professional in this area so they're getting the right advice. So when you have been ill, or when you have been injured, or when you've had a progressive type pain syndrome develop, is it possible to still keep exercising? And should we do that? So first of all, I think, what does that look like? So if we exercise while we're injured, it might involve modifying a workout we've done to protect the injury through different types of exercise, but we have to make sure that we consult with professionals. So let's start with that. So something happens and you get pain. And I'll give you an example. Over the last 4 months, I've been battling some lower back and gluteal pain. And I was very unsure about how to manage this. And so I have a regular, almost weekly meeting with my osteopath slash physio. She is a trained osteopath and a trained physiotherapist. I think I'm so lucky to know her. Her name's Agnieszka, and she works at Fine Tune Allied Health here in Christchurch. She is honestly one of the best professionals I have met. She is, for me, she works really well for me. She's tough, but she gets into the areas that are tight. She works through the issues I've got. We make plans. She gives me exercises. She also runs a Pilates studio. I'm not just giving her a big plug here. I sound like I am, or maybe I am giving her a plug, but I see her regularly. Anyway, so in January, this issue started, and it's been going on for a while. Anyway, long story short, I've got some issues with some of the discs in my back, which is causing some sciatic pain. My back itself is a bit tender and sore, as are my glutes and the backs of my legs. So I've got some typical back stuff. So I've been to see her. She referred me to a musculoskeletal specialist who sent me for an MRI, and we've figured out what the issues are. So I think that's the first thing is if you do have an issue, don't just sit around hoping it's going to go away. Seek some professional advice. Find somebody you know, or ask for some advice from somebody who might know about where to go for some help. So it could be a physio, it could be an osteopath, it could be your GP, it could be, your fitness professional that can refer you somewhere. It could be a specialist. But wherever you go, don't just sit around waiting and hoping, because that's when the bad habits can start, or when you can feel like I can't be bothered, or it's too sore, or whatever. And without the right advice, you don't just lose your mobility with your pain or injury, you also can lose fitness and the benefits of being regularly active. So work with a professional. In the first instance, find somebody who you trust and and I've just given my physio slash osteo a plug. So I think that's the first thing. And so the second thing is you don't have to stop. You don't have to stop exercising altogether. Now, obviously, if you've got an acute injury, or you just had surgery, there might be 2 or 3 days or a little bit longer where you're not supposed to move because you need to let things heal, settle, etc., etc. You might have stitches or something like that, and you need to make sure you give it time so that you can let that healing process happen. But the internal process of healing, again, you'll receive advice from your doctor or medical professional about that. But very rarely will anybody in any profession nowadays tell you to stop exercising altogether, right? Because exercise promotes blood flow, and when a site is injured, say for example your lower back's injured, all of the muscles around that area tighten up around the spine, which means that causes pain because the blood can't get in, and then the waste product, or like the lactic acid that you produce when you are active, can't be removed. So it's like a catch-22. So we say don't stop moving altogether when you're injured, and it is much harder to move. Like this morning, I woke up, I had some lower back pain. I didn't really want to go anywhere or do anything, and the alarm went off quite early. And I thought, I need to do what I'm doing. So I got up and I went to the class I needed to attend today, just because I'm attending classes at the moment. And I was thinking, I can't do this. But anyway, long story short, 45 minutes later, my back pain had not worsened. In fact, it felt better. And I've seen my physio osteo today, and she totally advocates that was the right thing to do. So sometimes you've got to balance up whether the activity, the movement's going to help, and sometimes you don't know. So we're going to talk a wee bit about the types of things you can do when you are struggling with an injury and what the type of injury is. Obviously, it's going to depend a lot on what part of the body's injured. We've got a lot of body, so it's difficult. And sometimes even if there's head injury, like I had a client last year, I think it was last year or the year before, who worked with me. She was an amazing lady, and she'd had a significant head injury, and that had made her really tired and didn't decrease her ability to exercise. So along with her GP, we worked really closely together to slowly integrate an exercise back into her life. And we just took it really slowly and gently. And then by the time we'd finished working together, which was about 3 months, she was in so much better shape, felt better. She had wanted to lose a little bit of weight too and had done that. So her clothes were fitting her better and she felt better about herself. And that was actually an accountability coaching client. So she had been feeling unable to move because of her head injury and felt really cautious about trying different types of exercise because she was worried about making her head injury worse, which it had actually got better anyway. It hadn't 100% got better when we started, but it had improved. So she didn't want to aggravate it. And that's really, really important. That's why it's important that you have the right professional on board who can give you the right advice and make sure that you do the exercise that works for your body. So I would say to you, don't stop. Now, it might be, I'm not suggesting you do the exercise or the activity that has made you injured. So for example, last year I played netball. It was so fun. Had such a good time, but I pulled my calf like so badly. I couldn't run for a week, right? And it was because of all of the lateral movement. I wasn't used to it. I went into it too quick. So I had to pull back on other things while I let it heal. So just be really careful about what you do choose to do when you get injured or you've been ill. So the next point in my list here is to modify. So modifying the activity you're doing is really important. So what can you do if you're injured? Like, what should you be doing? So if we have a discussion first of all, and we look at some strategies. I've talked a wee bit about consulting a professional, but something like low impact activities that are really, really good for your cardiovascular fitness, but don't put too much stress on your joints. So say, for example, you've had a knee issue, a back issue, an issue with your hips, you've got issues with some part of your leg, right? And it means that you can't run very well, or walking could be challenging. I actually had a client who had injured herself walking this year, and it's because she wasn't used to any activity, and she started to walk and she got very enthusiastic and actually ended up injuring her ankle. So we ended up doing all sorts of other things. She still kept moving every single day. And actually I had a really great interview last year with a great lady, Gina, who's my sister-in-law. We went on an accountability coaching journey together, and she ended up breaking her foot 2 weeks into her 8-week journey with me. And once she'd broken her foot, she obviously couldn't do anything. So we had to figure out how she could exercise. That was so challenging. So let's have a look at some things that you can do. And then we're going to talk about some specific types of injuries, particularly back injury or back pain, because that tends to be a really common problem with people. So first of all, most people don't like swimming. There's a whole lot of stuff around swimming about getting in that swimsuit, getting the hair wet, getting the chlorine on the skin. But you know what? You've got to weigh up. What's worse, all of that, or getting some or being worse off, being stiff, not being able to move, not getting the blood flowing. So swimming is a really, really good option. And I have swum, particularly when I've injured my ankle. So I've had sprained ankles in the past. It's been quite bad. And I've injured them and ended up getting in the pool. Now, so I first of all say, and this is what 2 of my clients did last year. Gina was one of them. At the moment, as I'm speaking to you, I am removing my cold pack from my lower back. I have a sore lower back. So using swimming, right? So swimming is a great option. So getting in the pool, getting some laps in, getting out there is excellent because there's no impact. And often it's the impact that's the problem for people who are a little bit injured, right? Especially in the legs or the back area. So swimming and pool walking can be really great options. You've got those injuries. I had another client last year who had a wee calf tweak. So she felt like, any other impact activities weren't going to work. So she took up swimming. She did so well. It's so hard, right? So, and it's relatively cheap to go. Pool walking is another option. If you don't want to swim, you can walk in the pool. Again, if you've sprained your ankle, you might be more comfortable swimming. Have you ever wondered how you can be a fashion stylist with access to premium digital styling products? Do you want to be trained by the best in the industry and access these products that reflect fashion styling in 2025? If you do, then Image Innovators is absolutely the choice for you. This is because they have a network of over 1,000 trained fashion stylists worldwide, and when you work with them, you're getting the best of the best. They have evidence-based professional training offered by highly skilled facilitators that help you reach your absolute potential. This is a great alignment with Style for Life, as I in my business have used and endorsed their products for over 10 years with so many happy clients. I'm really excited to say I'm also offering training to fashion stylists in conjunction with image innovators. So if you're ready to start your fashion styling training journey, then use the code BRIGHTRED25 for 10% off all products. We can look at stationary cycling. Now, I'm not really talking about exercycles here because exercycles are a little bit tricky and challenging, or not tricky to use, but they're not really as effective as spin bikes, but they're a good start. And my client who injured her foot walking, she ended up doing quite a lot of stationary cycling. She was at the beginning of her fitness journey, so it was a good starting point for her. And then she actually has progressed to a spin bike recently. And that is definitely a suggestion that I would put in place, is using a spin bike. I know I go on about spin bikes all the time, but it's a really great way of building a fitness. You can add resistance easily, you can control your own workouts, you can use any manner of workouts from anywhere. There's all sorts of things you can download online. If you want to subscribe to Les Mills online, you can use that. There's a huge plethora of things out there that you can use while you're on usually a spin bike. A stationary bike will be harder to adjust the resistance and get your speed going. It doesn't have the weighted wheel, which you do have when you're cycling. So sometimes cycling can be a good option as well, particularly if you are looking for something with no impact. So that's just some examples of some things that might work for you. Now, if you have a particular injury, you are probably going to need to do some targeted training. So again, speaking about my lovely client who's had some hip issues, one of the things that she does a lot of is she does a lot of upper body resistance training and does some cardio circuits. She combines that with spins. So she gets her cardio on the bike and then does lots of upper body work. And I see her stats. She works hard doing this. So she does upper body work, she's improving her strength, and you can get all these kind of workouts again online, or you can employ the services of a personal trainer to set you up. So, you can think about seated exercises while you're lying down, exercises where you don't have to stand up or you can be supported so you can actually brace and do the things that you need to do. So if you have an upper body injury, like a broken arm, oh, this is hilarious. So I had this lovely lady who comes always to my classes on a Monday night at Rangiora for RPM, and she showed up one day with a full broken arm, like a big cast. And I was like, oh, what's up? And she told me how she'd broken it. And she kept on attending classes. She just used one hand. She was really careful, and she was able to do that no problem. So if you do have an upper body injury, cycling or swimming can actually, is again, like I said, stationary cycling probably, because she couldn't put any weight on her arm, are really, really great options, and it's really possible for us to modify as well. Interestingly, also, I had a lady in my class last night who came to me, and she has got scoliosis of the spine, and she's done everything. She told me, I love this attitude about her, great lady. She told me that she's not let it restrict her at all in her life. She's played rugby, she's done all these things. She'd be a woman around my age, so really young. And she said that she has spent her life exercising, but we were doing an exercise where we moved our arms around our body and then did some pulsing at the top just to increase our back strength, and then moved them back and pulsed. And she was struggling to move her arm in an arc around her body. So I had a conversation with her and worked out some options for her. But yeah, we worked out some options. So she can still do the exercise. Yeah. And still participate. So again, it's just about your desire to get out there and do it, right? So if you have got an injury and you're doing weights, and lots of people love weights at the moment, which is great, lower the weight and increase the reps to maintain intensity without straining the injury. So I have heard of quite a few people who have been injured doing heavy resistance training, and I personally have been as well, which is very annoying. So part of the reason I had a sore back is I was doing some strength work and I just didn't quite have my technique as perfect as I should, even though I should have it very perfect being at my job, but I didn't, and my back just got pulled. I think I actually just got a wee bulge in my disc doing that, one of my discs in my lower spine. So anyway, I've been working through that, trying to balance up the activity versus the injury for the last 4 months. So very much lived experience for me. So yeah, that heavy resistance training, very careful. Move into it really, really carefully, because again, it's a place where you can get injured, particularly if you haven't got the correct technique. So if you're not sure about a particular exercise, it's really important to get someone who's in those roles to help you. So for example, it could be somebody who works as a personal trainer or a Pilates instructor or a yoga instructor or any of those people who know and understand the technique to help correct you and get that right. So use equipment. Equipment's a really great way, or machines. So if you're in a gym situation, you might want to use machines to reduce the weight bearing load. So a machine can actually help take some of that weight, as opposed to you using free weights where you have to use more muscles in the body to support and stabilize. And then it's more difficult for you to actually be able to perform the exercise correctly, especially if you've got something you're nursing, like an injury. So if you're nursing a back injury, you've got to protect that. And so using free weights may compromise your healing process. Using a machine holds you in the fixed position, and you can push in through that machine and get the correct muscles working. Avoid anything really painful. So if it's sharp pain, stop or modify the exercise. Like this morning when I went to the gym, I knew that my back was niggly. So there was some exercises I just knew I wasn't going to do, because when I do them, I'm not strong enough yet to do them without my back niggling. So I needed to be careful about that. So how do we return to exercise when we've been injured, or when we've been sick, or when we've had a progressive problem, pain problem that's crept up on us over time? So first thing to do is to start a bit slower. 50% of your normal intensity. So I know last year I had surgery in March, and I decided to gently and slowly return back to exercise. It took me a long time. It took me 3 months. And at 6 weeks, I was able to start gently running. But before that, I was walking. So the first thing I did once I'd had my surgery, which was in March last year, is probably spent the first day, 2 days after the surgery, I went for a 1.5K walk around the block. And then I just walked for the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Sometimes I walked for a couple of hours a day. It was really good. I just loved it. It was lovely. And it was probably less than 50% of my normal intensity. It was a great time. And I did recover quite well. Now, you really only want to increase the intensity or duration of your workout by 10 to 15% each week. You don't want to be pushing it up too much. And I definitely did that. So as a little marker and a bit of information, I ran a half marathon in March of 2025. I did not run another one again until November. So I had the surgery in March, and then obviously just after I'd run my half marathon. Surgery after half marathon. And I did not run another one again until November. So very much last year took my time around that, and it took me a while to recover. And I'm so pleased I did. So it says to increase the intensity or duration by 10% to 15% each week. And then you need to really look at doing exercises recommended by your specialists, like your physiotherapist or your osteopath or whoever's guiding you. So for example, when I injured my back in January, I went to my osteophysio, I call her that because she's both, and she gave me hip bridges to do, which I was so like, I do heaps of hip bridges. I'm always working out in the gym, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, long story short, my glutes were not as strong as they should be. Fact of the matter. So I started doing them because the pain was sore and I wanted to get better. And it's made a huge improvement. I've made a huge improvement. It's made a huge difference. So that was really good advice. And also when I saw the musculoskeletal specialist, he told me to stand up more when I'm running, which I've been really conscious of doing, and making sure that I'm running from the center of my body. So my hips are forward rather than having to then sort of people get crouched over. So again, really, really good advice. He also gave me advice to not do speed work, not go too fast, because that was irritating my back for 6 weeks. So, really good advice. You've got to listen to your exercises, to listen to your specialists and implement the exercises they prescribe. And if you do them, chances are you will heal and things will improve. Now, the other thing you need to do is listen to your body. So if the pain increases or a flare-up occurs, reduce the intensity and take a rest day. So I'm going to have tomorrow off. I'm going for a walk with a client this afternoon, but then I'm not going to do anything else until Thursday night. So I need a couple of days off. So we've talked about some of the exercises you can do: walking, swimming, spin or indoor cycling, some bodyweight exercises, things like Pilates and yoga. I was speaking to my sister yesterday and she said she's had some issues with her hips, and her specialist, who's the same as mine, Agnieszka, said to her, instead of anything else, let's look at you doing some Pilates for a while. So she's taken up Pilates to try and work out some of the hip issues. So looking after your hip health and looking after your knee health can happen via exercise, not just via treatment and rest. So Pilates and yoga are really good. Sauna and cold plunge, definitely a lot of research showing us that sauna and cold plunge is really, really effective for that inflammation, and that's where we end up. The pain comes from inflammation. Ice packs. So I have to say, as I showed you, I have an ice pack on my back right now. Ice is underrated. Like if you've got pain, you've got inflammation generally. And to reduce inflammation, you need to put cold on it. So I have my heater between my feet now and my cold pack on my lower back. So that's just a little bit of information about some bits and pieces about helping to manage an injury. I just want to talk very briefly for the next couple of minutes about herniated discs. So we're talking about your spine here. So when you have an injury in your back, often it can be called a bulging, herniated, slipped, prolapsed disc in your spine. What that means is your spine is made up of a whole lot of joints. It's divided into your lower spine, mid spine, and upper spine. There's obviously names for all of those as well. So lumbar spine, etc., is your lower spine. And so thinking about the different parts of your spine has discs between each joint. And when those discs get punctured, or they get a little bit damaged or they get worn out, they can bulge or press on the nerves that surround your spine, which can cause you to have all sorts of issues. Like you could have knee pain, you can have back pain specifically, or you can have leg pain, you have a buzzing feeling, you can get some weakness in your legs if it's your lower back. If it's your upper back, you can get pain down your arms. So my husband, David, he damaged the discs badly in his upper neck in 2018, and that's why he's explained this in the podcast about marriage. And his discs bulged and he damaged them, so he ended up having them replaced. And part of the problem with that was he had nerve pain in his left arm, so his finger still he's not got feeling back in his left hand because of that. So anyway, that's about a little bit about backs. So if you're wanting to prevent a bulging disc or a herniated disc, or whatever words you're going to use, you can reduce your risk. I just think it's useful here. You can reduce your risk. I'm going to give you some techniques in a moment. So first of all, use proper lifting techniques. Bend at the waist. Don't bend at the waist, sorry. Bend your knees while keeping your back straight. Use your leg muscles to help support the load. So that's really important. Like use your legs, use your core, not just bending at the waist and using your back, right? Unless you're doing a deadlift, obviously, or something like that in the gym where you need to use your back muscles. Maintain a healthy weight for you. So excess weight puts pressure on your lower back. If you want help with that, get in touch with me. I can help you with accountability coaching. Practice good posture. So learn how to improve your posture when you walk, when you sit, when you stand, when you sleep. Good posture reduces strain on your spine. So why have we got strain on our spine? Often it's about the way that we're walking, moving, our posture. Oh, stretching. Stretching is really important too. It's really important to take stretching breaks if you sit for long periods of time, even before exercise, after exercise. Really effective way of helping pull the muscle fibers apart a little bit, let the blood flow through them, let the waste products leave, and then you feel less pain. I know, honestly, it works. Avoid wearing high-heeled shoes. How much of a party pooper comment is that? These shoes throw your spine out of alignment, so it's a real bummer for me. With lower spine issues, I really have been wearing flat shoes a lot. Oh well, I'd rather have a healthy spine and less pain. Get regular physical activity. I've said this. Focus on workouts that strengthen your back and abdomen muscles to support your spine. So remember, you've got your spine, which is the bone in the middle. And then you have the muscles that surround the spine. You have muscles on the back of your body, on your glutes or your butt muscles. You have your core muscles and you have your thigh muscles. All of those muscles need to be strong so they take the load as opposed to your back. And then if you're smoking, don't do that because it weakens your discs and makes them vulnerable to rupture. Interestingly, when I was researching this information about herniated discs and back pain, I did research and note, and I was like feeling a bit gutted, that disc bulges or disc issues can run in families. And I've for years proclaimed my luckiness because my father has had spinal surgery, my mother has got a terrible spine, and my sister's had spinal surgery, and my brother and I battle a bit with it. So And my husband's got neck issues, so gosh, I don't know what's in store for our children. Anyway, that's just a little bit about what makes you more prone to disc bulges. Obviously, we've talked about being overweight, smoking, and also there can be a genetic factor in there too, which can be a bit gutting. So we've just talked about how to keep exercising when you're injured or when you have been unwell. I hope that's been useful. I think the key points here are to make sure that you consult with a professional. I cannot stress this enough. Please make sure you find a good person to consult with who you trust, who trusts you, and you can work together. And then work together. You don't have to stop exercising. You can modify the exercises, try some different types of exercises, walking, swimming, Pilates, yoga, spin bike. All of those things are really good when you are nursing something that is a little bit uncomfortable. So I hope that's helpful. I know that for myself, when I have a little niggle or a problem, first thing I do is get on the phone to Agnieszka or make an appointment. And the next thing I do is think, okay, what do I need to change here so that I can get through this and keep moving? And I do have a goal to keep moving well into my late life. I plan on living a long time. So anyway, kia kaha, everybody. I super appreciate you all listening to this podcast, watching this podcast on YouTube, following me on Instagram, following me on Facebook, following me on LinkedIn. So all of those places where you do see me and hear about this podcast, I super appreciate it. And I just want to acknowledge and thank you and wish you a very good week ahead and say and encourage you to keep moving. Thank you for listening to the Style for Life podcast. Don't forget, you deserve to feel fabulous at every age, every stage, and at every size. If you're loving the show, hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps more amazing people like you find their way back to life through style. Thanks again. Until next time.